question. I'm like, what do you think the most dangerous animal in the forest is right now? And they're all like saying all these things like wolves or bears or stuff. And it's like, no, it's me and you. Like humans, we are the most dangerous.
We can wander our way over, because this is Wandering Ways.
What's Bigfoot possibility? Clink.
Clink.
What's up, my guy?
Just live in this beautiful world, this beautiful place that I call Montana, and it's just gorgeous. I had the privilege of going into the Yellowstone Park in December, which actually was the first time I've ever gone into the park in December. So that was kind of cool.
Ooh, I didn't know that. I didn't know I beat you to that in that category.
Right? Right? I lived out here for goddamn my whole life. No, actually 15 years I've lived out here, called Montana home. And I don't think I've ever been to the Yellowstone Park in December that I can recall or think of. And and it was magical. Let's just say that. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to dive into it.
No, we got too much going on.
That next week, because we got some good stuff today. I'm excited.
Yes. No. Yeah. We'll get into the fun stuff coming up here. I don't want to jump the gun too quick now. Build up that suspense, my man.
Right? They're like, what are we talking about? Who are we talking about? What? Read the details and you'll know. But if
I was
you
gonna
don't
say they probably read the title of the episode today and they go, "We know what's coming."
No, our wanderers wander not only out in the field, out on their journeys, wander in their adventures, but they wander in their mind. And they know, they're already subscribed. They're just like, what's that next Wandering Minds thing that they can have?
Wandering Ways.
Thank you. I was
Wandering Minds is the old name.
I was caught up on their mind, on how their mind works and how it wanders, because you're listening to Wandering Ways right here, right now. And you just said, I'm going to listen to this week's episode. I'm going to let them take us down the river of surprises. So that's what we're getting today.
Yeah, just wander on in. Shoot, you went to Yellowstone. I'm trying to think. I did not really do anything this weekend,
Other than being safe and healthy at home, huh? How about that? Let's give you props to that.
Yeah,
doing the right thing
at the time of the
right
recording. At time of recording, this COVID cases are pretty crazy, and they want us to stay home as much as we can. So, maybe I'm doing my part.
You're doing your part for the betterment of society as a whole.
Yeah, went on a bike ride. It was a beautiful bike ride.
Good. You do a lot of that, which is awesome, and very, very something that I would say you should do when you spend that much money on a bike. Definitely.
I'm probably close. If you were to do like price per mile, I'm probably around like $2 a mile.
Hey, you're getting down there.
I know the goal is to always get less than a penny.
There you go. You're almost there. I like that. That's a good goal to have. Actually going into Yellowstone this weekend really, really got me excited because my next big purchase. Yes, and this benefits us all because if you follow any of our social medias, you get our wildlife photos. And I dug deep and did some research on what wildlife camera lens that I can use for my camera. And it costs a pretty penny. But I'm like doing that. Okay, if I sell this. I got an Xbox here for sale. If someone wants to buy the original Xbox, help me buy my camera lens. And I'm talking pretty penny. So I'm gonna have to sell 2, 3, 5, 10 Xboxes.
No, when the PS5 was coming out, everyone was making the jokes like the sugar mamas and all that for the PS5s. That's what you gotta convince your fiance to throw in. Be that sugar mama for that the lens.
She is a good maybe come my birthday, I can get her to, by then I'll have enough money in my own save to where I can get her to throw that last chunk at it. My birthday's in July for all you, those listening. We appreciate emails, anything, you can just let us know and we will definitely appreciate that. Mark's is in September 28th. So if you guys want to send him anything, just know that that's coming. But
one thing I want, which is what we want out of this podcast, is paying off my student loan debt.
Well, we're about negative 50 in the hole after today's episode. No,
yeah. So the little ticker that's probably just going bloop bloop in the wrong direction. So
but that makes me think, if you are someone out there that works at a national park, that works in sustainability, that works in our national resources or parks, and wants to talk to us, wants to interview us, wants to be on here as a guest, let us know. You have awesome stories, and we are the place for you to share those stories. Because what I've come to notice with all our outdoor enthusiasts, our wanderers, as we like to call them, is we love our parks and we love giving back to our parks. And sometimes we get so caught up into what we're doing and how we're doing it, we don't know necessarily how to communicate that. So let us help you. Let us teach you some things. We are your spot. So, definitely come on through. We appreciate it. We love it. Like today, we got some awesome things. We talk about sustainability and the importance of that, because if you and I can pick up one piece of trash every day, that's 365 items a year. Right? Times that by 2, because you and I are doing that. Now you tell 3 friends. I tell 3 friends. Look at that. I can't even do the math past that. So
yeah, no, it's super important. We go into that kind of stuff today, which we're just going to start segueing into introducing our amazing guest, Mr. Matt May. He's honestly, this interview you guys are about to listen to, it was a ton of fun. He has some really cool stories. He's done some cool things. We honestly didn't even get to half the things we wanted to talk about with him, because we just kind of started going, which that's totally chill. It was a lot of fun. Go ahead and check him out on the Instagram at the Matt May, _Matt May. He really has done some awesome stuff, been to some crazy places, and he lives the woodsy, the owl life, So, hey, you got anything you want to lead into before we just jump in?
This friendship with Matt, that it started off by us, carpooling to work at Pompey's Pillar. Do 30-mile drive from Billings, Montana out to Pompey's Pillar every day. This is just a hair on the top of the head of all the stories and all the conversations me and him have had. So I'm happy to share that with you guys today. Let it happen. Listen, enjoy. Thank you for being a wanderer.
Yes. Anyways, let's just jump into the interview with the Matt May. So here we are with the wonderful and great Mr. Matt May today. Just to get things off and rolling, Matt, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing at the moment, if you are doing anything?
So I'm Matt May from Southern Indiana. I've worked for state parks for almost 5 years now. I did a stint out in Montana with AmeriCorps. I worked for a zoo as a conservationist, state parks, and I currently am just doing some tree trimming work here in North Carolina because we were living in the Virgin Islands. I was kayak and snorkel guiding when the pandemic hit. So I kind of took a bartending job, and then the pandemic stayed going. So I came back to North Carolina, and we're just we're just kind of hanging out, waiting for the next phase, looking to get into the national parks or maybe back into the state parks in Virginia or go out west. We'll see. But I've worked in many different places, so it's been a ride.
Yeah, I was looking at the places and stuff that you've like done, and man, you've kind of have been everywhere. I'm a little jealous of it, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. A lot of people tell me that they love to live vicariously through me when they hear where I've been and stuff.
Yeah, for sure, especially the Virgin Islands. I mean, that's just nice weather. Who doesn't want to go to paradise for a while?
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous, and basically getting paid like 2-3 times a day to do a kayak tour, something that I'd just do in my spare time. Like that was my job. I'd be teaching people about it, or maybe there was people that just wanted to just kayak and not really listen, not really have any information, just kind of see stuff. So then you just have like kind of a chill day where we didn't talk much. But most of the time people were there, they really expected someone who knew about the environment, and I got my degree in wildlife conservation biology, so I can tell people all different things about the wildlife, about the ecosystem, things like that. So a lot of people, especially millennial travelers, they really want to know about this specific ecosystem. We were in the mangrove swamps, about the different species, what endangered species there are, what things the government's doing to help. We were part of it. Part of the tours was in the national park down there in the Virgin Islands. So it was a really great experience, and people really do care. And that's what you find when you give tours, is people want to know this information. They don't know when we're bombarded with so much information that when you can take a moment to go take a 3-hour kayak trip, sometimes you want to hear about these really cool, like, oh, this animal is related to this other animal or something like that. And it makes you appreciate it, step back and appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I know if I was on one of those trips, that would be like one of the things I would really enjoy. But I find it, because you have been everywhere, you got to be pretty knowledgeable on like a variety of different like environments. Because I mean, shoot, you were working there in the Virgin Islands, and then you were the Ha River State Park,
North Carolina.
Yeah. So I mean, and then you were up in Delaware too, working at that zoo. So I mean, and then you were also out in Montana. I mean, they're all different places.
Well, and something that I remember from our days out here in Montana is you grew up on a tree farm, right?
Right. So I grew up on a small farm until we kind of moved into the city when I was like 7, but my family still owns a tree farm in Indiana, and it's a passive tree farm. We don't really have to do more than a couple things every year. We lease out part of it to pay the taxes. They do like 60 acres of trees, but we have black walnuts and then just mixed tree species that I was lucky that my grandparents, they were able to set that aside for us. And me and my uncle, who lives in Michigan but lives in Indiana for half the year, we kind of take care of it. And through that, I just always loved nature. And even out there in Montana and other places, I've done things with tree work, whether it's trimming or transplanting, and that's very important, because I remember in Montana we found out it kind of sucks to buy a tree that was grown up like 400 miles away, and they try and bring it to you and you plant it and you have like 80% die off, 70% die off because it didn't grow right there. But in Montana, we decided, hey, there's a bunch of volunteer trees in this ditch. Let's just dig them up, and replanted them. And they really worked. So it was just about a couple hours of labor and knowing the area. Like I just kind of figured that out. But yeah, having experiences like that in your life really are important when you're doing work that you don't have a set plan of. It's not A, B, and C. You gotta improvise a lot of times.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you're knowledgeable in trees. And I remember that one day we were sitting out there in the gator, and we got that rope around that big branch of that cottonwood, and he pulled it off with that gator. And I mean, that was a fun day. But just the fact that you know how to take care of the trees, manage the trees, and the knowledge behind that on top of your wildlife knowledge is just incredible. And I mean, I want to give that some love too. So
well, I really learned a lot at Murray State in Kentucky, where I went to school at. I got my degree in wildlife conservation biology, but we were lucky. We took the actual ologies still, rather than just like one course that throws all the wildlife together. I took zoology, but then after that I took the study of trees, which is dendrology, and I spent one 5-hour class for a whole semester with my professor Gagnon, who was a fire biologist. So he studied fire and how that affects trees. And we literally went out 2 times a week out in the woods and studied trees. He'd like pick up a leaf or point to a tree, and we'd have to tell him what that was. So learning on the fly was super important. And we did the same thing with snakes and turtles in herpetology. So we went twice a week. Well, actually, I think it was one day a week, but it was for like 5 hours. Went out in the woods, caught snakes, caught turtles. They had all these, what they're called flip boards, just wood things sitting on this professor's land. And you just walk around on Monday afternoons, flipping the board. And if you see a snake, you just catch it, and we all identify it. And we use the book, and we make sure that we know what it is, and we're handling it safely. And that's how you learn. Like some people, they want to learn in books and like Stanford and some other places. I don't know exactly, but they only teach 1 or 2 of these. Murray State still teaches like all of them. Ichthyology, the study of fish. I took mammalogy. So we literally caught bats. We caught raccoons, we caught possums, we caught little field mice, all sorts of things. And you learn with your hands on, and that's how you learn how to do it. And so many people, they are amazed that I had this experience. And I'm amazed that people, they study wildlife and they don't want to get hands on, is kind of my thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like the book study can really only get you so far. It can develop a fantastic base and all of
For
that.
sure.
And you can be even confident, but like when you get into the real world, like, man, it's different from a book. A picture is different than the real deal. So I mean, it's pretty legit that you're able to like flip those boards, walk around, and identify these different snakes. Because man, I couldn't do. Did you see like poisonous snakes? Because I'd be like, pass.
First off, snakes aren't poisonous. They're only venomous because they use their fangs and they inject venom into you, kind of like a spider or scorpion. But venomous snakes, we didn't actually find any during that time where we picked them up, because we call them hots. You don't pick up hot snakes. I know there were 1 or 2 that we weren't totally sure. But a copperhead or something like that, a cottonmouth, would be something you'd be worried about. And North Carolina was where we found a lot more of those. Copperheads will just lay right in the trail getting some sun, and you're along hiking with some people talking about something. You just gotta freeze, and you're like, you don't want to freak them out, but that's a copperhead. Like it back in the day, that killed people in the 1800s and stuff. Like nowadays, you gotta rush to a hospital. But it's good. You got to know. And that's sometimes people, there's like, oh, you're just walking around the woods. It's not that hard, but there's a lot of things when especially we had summer camps where we take kids, for 5-6 hours. You go on hikes, you take them to get lunch, you go back, do hikes, do things in the woods, do things like that. And you got to know your stuff. You can't just walk around with 10 kids in the woods and not know what the venomous snake looks like or something like that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, snakes. I'm not the biggest snake fan in general, but man, kudos to you. It would be I don't know if I could do it. They just give me the heebie-jeebies.
I know we encountered a rattlesnake in Badlands, and we talk about that on here. And Mark was not having it there.
Oh, I encountered a rattlesnake out west once, and we were right next to a cliff. So the person who was with it was 3 of us. And when they spotted it, they were very calm, and they said, all right, guys, don't freak out, but there's a rattlesnake about 4 feet to our right. We just got to get past this. Just don't freak out. And the one girl in the back kind of just grabbed onto someone and walked with us. But we were within striking distance, and you just got to keep your cool and just step right out of the way.
Do you know how far they can strike?
It depends on their size, but a lot of times different snakes, it's like half their body length. So if it's a 4-foot snake, then it can go at least 2 foot. It depends.
Huh. It's good to know. A little fun fact. Yeah, fun fact. And most of the time, I always tell my students, like, animals are way more scared of you than you are of them. I ask them a question. I'm like, what do you think the most dangerous animal in the forest is right now? And they're all like saying all these things like wolves or bears or stuff. And it's like, no, it's me and you. Like humans, we are the most dangerous forever. Like we have killed so many more animals than other animals do. It's the humans. So as long as you just know your stuff and don't bother something else, like a rattlesnake, you don't bother it, it's gonna be fine. It lives in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I think with like a bear, right? I said with all the hiking I do, right? If I ever die from a bear, I say, let the bear live because I did something wrong.
For sure.
I spooked him. He was
Mhm.
just defending himself. He's just a lot stronger than I am. So don't kill him. Let him live.
For sure. For sure. I remember they even close trails sometimes when they have pregnant grizzlies or grizzlies with cubs because they don't want to have to kill her because of some hiker making a mistake.
Well, and it's some ignorant hiker making a mistake because there are those people out there. They wear the bells. They talk. Like me, I talk. That's what it is. You're there and you let the bear know. It's like that. Do you see that video of that cougar in Utah chasing after that kid? Well, what's the first thing you notice in the video? He's filming the kittens. The kittens.
Yeah.
That to me is get that out of there.
Get that out of there. Like he also, if he had a big stick or something like that, and he would have put down his phone instead of just some guy holding up his iPhone, just trying to like back away. Like he's not an NFL defensive back. That cougar is going to get in easy. He can't back away. But I always tell people, like, if you get a stick, that's what humans do. We use tools. You throw something at it, you get a stick, and that thing's like, oh crap, this thing's a warlock. And they run away.
Well, that's what happened. He threw a rock and the thing went away.
Yep.
No, it's like know your situation and your surroundings, and that's something that you learn being out in nature and probably having those type of encounters with animals and people.
For sure. I mean, I'm not saying that like even experienced people cannot have accidents because that can happen. But when you know your surroundings, and I would teach survival to the students also, and I'd teach them about how just being aware. Just when you're walking in, remembering things, remembering which way you went on the trail. Looking for signs of humans, power lines or other things like that, other trails, maybe houses. Like when people end up getting lost, a lot of times it's because they didn't bring water or they literally were having some sort of episode where they weren't trying to be safe. Hiking is so safe. Every story I read about somebody, they went out in the woods and they tried to do like live out there or tried to have this experience where they didn't bring any water, they didn't do anything, and then they're lost for 8 days and there has to be all this money spent to find them and stuff. And a lot of times you just tell somebody where you're going, remember where you parked. You can find your way back. People make a big deal of getting lost, but it's not. Injury is the biggest thing. Like you're going to know where you are, but you got injured on the trail and no one knows where you're at. That's the biggest issue. It's not like you physically, I'm lost in the woods. The biggest issue is you fall down a ravine on the side. No one knows where you're at. You broke your phone. You might know that the car is like a half mile away, but that's not going to help you because you got a broken ankle. So there's these other things we talk about, telling someone where you're going, maybe bringing a friend, bringing a dog is always good because that dog could run and show somebody where you're at. But just bringing water, being careful, having proper things, wearing your boots and things like that. I know people go hiking and they have flip-flops on or something, and then they twist their ankle and they blame hiking. And it's like, no, I blame you. You were not properly prepared.
Yeah.
I like that. That's so true. I mean, we did the Logan Pass hike, the traditional, everyone does it. We did it in July. We did it in flip-flops on a glacier. But I mean, there's more people on that hike. You can do it there, but still.
For sure. Well, and nowadays there are some of these hikes you go on, like you're not getting away from people like anywhere. You're going to be able to see people no matter where you are on the trail.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm sure, Mark, you've seen that like out west in the summer, sometimes those national parks and stuff like that. It's like you're in an amusement park.
Yeah, I always say sometimes the best, like if you just want to see Darwinism at work, just go to some of these like national parks or like really popular like nature sites,
For sure.
It's crazy. Like out on the Oregon coast, there's this thing called Thor's Well. And I mean, it's right on the ocean and it's rock, and it's not like, it's like hard rock. Like if you get batted in it, it's not a good day. But like the day I went, big waves, and every now and then a wave comes, a big wave. And if you're there, it's like watching a bowling ball hit bowling pins. I sat there for like, had to have been an hour and a half. I watched two separate groups. They'd come in, they set up their camera to get a picture, big old wave comes and someone's getting carried out because they got batted around.
Oh yeah. And how is there a lot of rip currents there, and it's pretty rough there, or were they able to swim out and?
Well, where it is, it's like this big rock shelf. So
Mhm.
you're not really going to worry about getting sucked out into the ocean at this
Ah,
spot. But I mean, you're going to get batted around. So
yeah.
you're more in like if you kept getting pounded and pounded by waves, luckily this is just like a one big wave deal.
Mhm.
And you could be like, all right, now I have some time to get off. But no, this one was, if it gets really rough out there, not worth it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've seen a similar place in the Virgin Islands. We weren't able to go out there because something happened where somebody got washed off and ended up dying, and their parents and a bunch of people made a fund, so they put up a big fence so you can't go out there to
Oh,
these rocks, where the biggest wave will wash you off. So sometimes it's sad, but that's good for safety and stuff. But it's sad that like one person, two people makes it inaccessible for everybody.
yeah, no, for sure.
That's life, though, right? I mean,
It's like,
it's that 10%, that not even 10%, it's that 1% of everybody that ruins it for the rest, you know?
for sure, for sure. I mean, I do have to give props. Some places, people like communities, they pick up a lot of the trash, and like it looks amazing. Especially here stateside. When I went down to the Virgin Islands, I got a new appreciation for what it is to have like clean sidewalks and streets and stuff like that. Because down there, it's so rocky, so hilly that there's abandoned cars on the side. There's a lot of trash. Luckily, they've kind of banned straws down there, but there's bottles and all sorts of plastic pollution because they're on an island. I mean, if it kind of just washes in or washes out, or they don't have too much access, which is crazy because they have dumpsters everywhere. But there's a lot of good places here in the U.S. that there's not much trash, and I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that is nice. The one thing, I mean, doing a little bit of reading about you before and then listening to talk is you're pretty into like the conservation and then the environmental stuff. So I kind of want to just ask, like, what really got you into it? Was it that tree farm, or like was it going to Murray State, or was it like there a certain instant that really got you going with it?
Um, so remembering just growing up being outside a lot, always gave me the satisfaction of I don't know, feeling like I was able to learn new things and be able to be of use, like at the farm, like helping my grandma do stuff, everything like that. And I remember when I was in high school, I was more focused on going to college to make a lot of money, and I went to IU, Indiana University, for business, actually Kelly School of Business, and I did that for a while, over a year and a half. And I decided that the way that normal people in business thought about the environment, they thought about pollution as like not a problem unless you have to pay taxes on it. This whole issue, when I was seeing for myself, just us growing up, that in my lifetime things were getting worse, that things were more extreme, getting a little hotter, animals not as many, things, endangered species actually going extinct and things. And I kind of did this whole 180 where I took a semester off and then went down to Murray State because it was something that I actually wanted to study, instead of just I went to IU, kind of did undergrad things, wasn't really interested in business, but just thought I'd make a lot of money. And then when I did the 180, I decided that if I was going to do something for the rest of my life, I might as well care about it, really enjoy it. And that's where the conservation and kind of sustainability was a big thing. I minored in sustainability, and just being able to have choices that are not just super pollutant to the environment, where I can go out and, well, reusable straws is a big thing. I hate straw. I hate plastic straws. I always tell them, like, if I ever do get food, I'm just like, no, I don't want it. I don't
Yeah.
want straws. Keep it.
I feel you on that one. I'm the same way. I got a ton of reusable straws that I try and keep everywhere I
Hmm.
might possibly need it, because
No,
it adds up.
It does. It does. I argue to my students that if everyone tried to do something, I say this plus one mantra when you're taking a hike, anytime you're outside, this plus one. If you carry out all of your trash, all of your garbage, plus one item every time you do it, and I like convince the kids to each pick up a little piece of trash, that the world's going to be a better place.
Yeah.
And it really is a you and me type thing. I think I've read things on how corporations and stuff have spent money to make individuals think that it's all of us driving our cars that makes things the worst, but actually that's actually a small portion of it. A lot of pollution comes from large fishing vessels and things like that, and river pollution and actual corporations, the military, things like that. So we need to all do our part, but also voting, and right now is the biggest thing. If you don't vote, then you kind of can't complain, but you got to vote to make sure that your voice is heard, so we can change some of these things for the future.
Yeah. My dad was telling me he has he went out with this group of kind of older guys that are fishing in the local area, but they have a thing. Like my dad, first time he went with them, he started noticing that they were picking up trash as they're fishing and stuff. And then they got done and they all counted up how many pieces, and whoever had the least amount of trash had to pay for lunch that day. So it was a little untold game that they play. And, they don't tell the new guy because they want the new guy to pay. But, then the next time after, my dad was like, you know what? I bet your ass I was picking up a bunch of garbage.
That's
For
awesome.
sure. That is awesome.
Yeah,
we turned it into a game even on hikes. When I have kids, we call it Trash Buddy. And you get a friend who's your trash buddy, and whichever one of you says it first, says Trash Buddy, the other person has to pick up the trash. So you're kind of walking along oh, Trash Buddy. And we always joke if we see something big, we're going to come back, which I've done a few times, but something big, call Trash Buddy. You got to go back and get it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one too. I like that one, having the Trash Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were just out at an Olympic in October, and I forget. I mean, there was some hiker. You know how you have to have those overnight passes in some places when you're in the backcountry. It fell off her bag, and instead of just letting it sit there, pick it up. And definitely, I mean, that's a message that I think a lot of our listeners. It's good reinforcement. I think a lot of our listeners are people who are going to do that regardless.
For sure.
But it's always you have to remind yourself: wash your hands, brush your teeth, do this, do that. Right? Remind yourself: pick up the trash. No one else will do it, and that's the society we're creating. Is we want things to land on our lap. I can sit here on my phone right now. I can order food. I can text my friends. I can call my mom. I can send an email. I can do goddamn anything, And that's the problem. Is we'll see trash on the ground and we won't go pick it up, but
for sure,
no one else will, and that's the mindset we need to have. If I don't do it,
you expect someone to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we don't do it, who else will? And I think that's the message that with sustainability is we have to do it, because if we do it, I trust that I'm doing it, and that's the only person I can trust. So.
Yeah, and I think making a game of it, whether it's just you and your friends doing a pickup for lunch, or if you're with a group of people and you have the Trash Buddy. I think those are two really, and there's probably more ways of doing it, but if you make it more engaging to where it's fun, I think we can get more people into doing it more often.
For sure. And I always have to remind myself to bring a trash bag, a little Walmart bag or something, which I try and not use, because I use reusable bags. But when I do have them in my car, it's catch-22. When I do have them in my car, I make sure I'm bringing on the hike, especially in nowadays. You want to stay, sanitized and stuff. You don't want to grab a bunch of stuff. But I mean, if it's a water bottle that's been floating in this river, you're not worried about COVID. It's a water bottle that's been floating. Pick it up. And I'm not saying go out there and pull tires out, which when I was in college, I was the vice president of our Sustainable Environmental Society. And we did a cleanup and we pulled tires, and it sucks. It does. It sucks. But just picking up those small pieces of trash doesn't allow it to all build up in all these other places. And I mean,
you're right there with the tires. Is the farmers would used to do that to the rivers. They would throw in cars and tires to help stop erosion, which is a natural process. But now we're seeing the effects of having those in the rivers for such a long time, and what it's doing to the fish. And
for sure.
everything else, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Well, and the crops and things like that. I mean, organic is really good, but with GMOs and things, we don't want to get all into that. But just pesticides in general in our water, it's not a good thing. And they have this whole GMO so that it could tolerate more pesticide, but then they spray it with more than it needs pesticide, so it causes more runoff. And things like that. It just makes my skin crawl, and I hope that we can, I hope we can change that, our generation, in the near future.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's something that I think that there are enough people there that understand it and get it. I mean, if you watch the David Burrow documentary about where he literally says, in my lifetime, I have seen the orangutan go from this like creature that it was really hard to find in the wild to now they're no longer in the wild. And what are we going to do about that? You know, because it's really hard to reintroduce something. You see all the controversy with the wolves in Yellowstone when you reintroduce an animal into an ecosystem, but you also see the good from that. But it's the two sides, and really what it comes down to is money at the end of the day. And this group wants to make money for their own selfish reasons versus the common good of everyone.
It's a whole ball of wax when it comes to dealing with endangered species, and especially exotic endangered species. So they're not where we're from. They're not here. Say a rhino or an elephant.
Yeah.
We call those charismatic megafauna. So it's this big thing like a panda bear or like an elephant that people can like look at and think of, and you can get a lot of money by having a donation towards the elephants. But really, in real life, they live in a whole nother country with a jurisdiction that is not ours. International rules try to regulate it, but there are some countries that still allow hunting in theirs, but we'd call it poaching. Different things like that, where a national park is right on the border. So half of the population, is completely protected, and then they wander across some imaginary line and they can get shot. When you have all those different things, it's a whole ball of wax. And that's why I always tell people just research what you're going to donate to, because there are some causes that are great out there and they give almost 100% of the donations towards the cause. You just got to research what you're donating towards, because sometimes they're going to take a lot off the top for marketing or their CEOs or whatever. So I've always just do a little research, but we need those megafauna, and we need all those because they've shown biodiversity is what actually helps other things survive. If you lose one of these giant species like whales or rhinos in an area, then it doesn't have this big thing that walks around pooping and eating and spreading all this nutrients. And so your whole ecosystem kind of lost a big chunk of it. And that's where you get cascading ecosystems, where you basically have things going extinct because another thing went extinct. And that's what we're trying to protect. There are a few different ways you can try and do that with the biodiversity, like save a place that has a lot of stuff, or you save that big species that's overarching. Different philosophies on how to do it, but all are important.
Well, and I like my example. I mean, Yellowstone, it's so close to home here, 90 miles away.
Sure.
But it's the wolves, right? Like, what happened when they brought those back? Oh, the elk stopped overgrazing. Oh, that brought back the bees. Oh, which brought back the wildfire flowers, which helped the wildfires not burn as bad in the park. And it's just like, oh my gosh, 1 + 2 = 3 = like, come on, guys.
And that was scientifically proven. Like before they did that, they'd never done it as big, but they'd shown that was going to happen. And now people have seen that just because we look at it as a predator doesn't mean that it's actually bad. It's part of the ecosystem. It's the thing that takes out the weak or the sick elk. Because you don't want weak and sick elk to be able to survive and have babies. You want them to be picked off and to be scared. You don't want them to just wander around like there's no predators. And they've shown that. And Yellowstone's a great example. I wish that the reintroduction efforts here in North Carolina of the red wolves that they've done for years, it's really focused just in one spot. I wish that it could get as much funding as they have out there, because it's doing great things for Yellowstone, the biodiversity and just the different fauna that you see, you can tell.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, we see it with, even the way that, the way the bison with the way they reintroduced the way they brought back the park. And now, that the herds are hitting a point where they're so big that they have to kill off so many per year because they can't cross that imaginary border because it's a fence border, and the different issues that brings up with that. And it's really because, well, no, you want to own your land, you want to keep your cows safe because whatever reason you have beyond that. And it's just like, you got to think, if these things go away, we too will go away.
Hello, my wanderers. Before we get going with this episode of the podcast, I do just want to remind you guys to check out our other social medias, the YouTube, the Instagram, the Teespring to get that swag. Make sure to check us out individually. Zach Gray of Quartz Lake, Zach Gray, the Rougarou. Make sure to check out myself, Reverend Marcus, all that fun stuff. The links are below in the bio. All you gotta do is click that bio, look for it, boom, you're on your way. Make sure if you guys want to be part of the podcast or questions to be heard on the podcast, email us at wanderingwayspodcast@gmail.com or quartzlakeproductions@gmail.com. We love the feedback, we love the input, all of it is amazing, and we love you guys for listening. It's awesome. So let's keep wandering on. We've been talking about a lot of the conservation and the environment and stuff. I want to jump into the work that you did up at, was it the Brandywine Zoo in Delaware? So
yeah, Brandywine Zoo.
Yeah, just go into like what you were doing for them or up there.
So I was very fortunate right out of college. I got an apprenticeship there with Brandywine Zoo, but instead of working in the zoo, it's a very small 12-acre zoo that's owned by the state parks. It's very historical. It's on a site of an old battle that happened where George Washington lost in the Revolutionary War. Kind of historical, but they have a huge outreach for endangered species and especially outreach to the community because they're Wilmington, Delaware is so close to Pennsylvania, close to Maryland. They do all over Delaware for schools. So they actually have their own, at first I was called an American Kestrel conservation technician. And then I just turned into their zoo conservation technician. It was the third year of the project and it was an amazing project. So the American Kestrel is a type of falcon. It's like a peregrine falcon, but a lot smaller. Only gets to be about 120 grams. It's a very important apex predator. So they're going after these small mice, voles, things like that. They also eat other birds. People call them a sparrowhawk, a chicken hawk, which chicken hawk is an actual other kind of bird, but people do refer to kestrels as chicken hawks. And in the state of Delaware, it's considered state endangered. And state endangered meaning that in 2012, when they did a population estimate based on these things called Christmas bird studies, where they every year at Christmas time, they look at the birds that fly over and they count them. And then they had estimations of breeding pairs. And they estimated there was only 52 individuals left in the whole state.
Oh.
So Delaware is the second smallest state, but that's not very many birds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not
so they,
at all.
That's what you were sharing the pictures of, right?
Yeah, so those pictures, a lot of those pictures I took myself, besides the first one that was just of an American Kestrel, I took them myself because I was lucky enough to be not only kind of an amateur photographer as well as the conservationist, but I sited and built over 35 new boxes. So they started off with about 42. We added about 35 throughout, and we replaced a lot of old ones. But they're these big boxes that are up on about a 10-foot pole. And they're bigger than it's about double the size of a American bluebird box. If you've ever seen one of those little ones. So they have a bigger hole, and it's for a kestrel. They're specifically made.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I can share those photos, Mark, if you allow me to screen share here, if you want to.
No, I'm going to get them up for you.
You got them. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
got them up.
Yeah, just
that way the people on our small YouTube following can see it.
Yeah. Well, when I was there, I was really lucky to work with the people in Brandywine and also the Delaware State Parks. Delaware State Parks that's an American Kestrel. So that's a male. The males are the really showy ones in birds. Females are more drab and brown colored. We'll see some females But I built these boxes, a couple of them. We farmed out some of the building to a local high school. Their tech department built a lot of these boxes. They had made like 40 of them for us, which was pretty cool, because we make them out of cedar and we try and have them last a long time, but they only last about 5 years. So during my time, we basically replaced a lot of them, and then I sited, which meant I went to state parks. I got the permission from that specific state park. A lot of times I had to deal with their maintenance guys or whatever, and I would dig a hole and put up a box, or sometimes two of them, and we had to go watch them at least one time a week for half an hour. So that was what we did. But the boxes so upwards of 75 is what we had, but I split the time with a worker from Delaware State Parks. And she had my job the year before. So she knew about the boxes. She was very familiar with the people. Jordan Terrell, she was invaluable. So she went on to work for Delaware State Parks to do this same project. But in the time of us working there, over my year long, we went from, they only had boxes that had eggs. In the first 2 years, they only had 2 boxes. And then in that third year, luckily we added a few boxes that were from a different area. We had 5 boxes that had eggs. And we had over 25 juveniles or young ones that were born. And we had more than 23 that were fledged, meaning they like grew up and flew out of the box. One of them, we had siblicide, which is a funny term, but it means they were killed and eaten by their other siblings.
Oh.
And that is where, yeah, I mean, these things, remember, they're evolved dinosaurs. They're very ferocious. These little kestrels, when they live in this box, there's only one opening. So the mother and the father, after the female leaves the box, when they get 12 to 15 days old, they start throwing food in this box, and it's the fastest, the biggest one that gets the food. So these eggs, they only lay once a day. So some of these birds, its oldest sibling might be 5 to 7 days older than it. So if there's not enough food, or the gender doesn't go well, females are a little bit bigger, the males are naturally submissive to the females, then that youngest, smallest male sometimes doesn't make it. He starves, he dies. And that's what they call hedging their bets. Because if there is enough food, then he'll survive and be able to breed. But if there's not, then he dies and feeds the siblings, and life goes on. So we had that.
What kind of food are they being fed?
All different kinds. So some of them in really big areas that are like meadows and things like that, it's mainly large insects such as cicadas, grasshoppers, praying mantis. We'll see dragonflies, just wings all over the inside. Now the parents deliver those when they're really young. They kind of eat it and do the bird thing, but when they get older, they're just delivering it all day. And the male, he's a little bit smaller than the female, but they're excellent hunters. They can dive at over 100 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Oh gosh.
So they're a falcon, which peregrine falcon, their cousin, is the fastest animal on earth, can go over 230 miles an hour. But these American Kestrels, they have this very amazing eyesight and just adaptations where they have what's called an inherent distance finder in their head. So they can look and see something, and they just know how far away it is. They don't make a mathematical calculation, but their brain does. Huh. So they can just look, and they estimate their travel of path to get this prey. And they're very accurate. Sometimes they're over 40% accurate on small mice, little voles. And when they're in flight, they're even more accurate with those insects and things like that. They literally are plucking them out of the air. So it's kind of like a fighter jet going against like a less adapted plane. It's impossible for them to do anything.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I need that skill for my golf game, man.
For sure. Just inherent, you know exactly how far it is by looking at it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they also have this little thing where they can see infrared light. And so when mice are running, not infrared, sorry, UV light. So when mice are running away, they can't help it, but they just like leak a little urine. So they see this glowing path in the grass of where the mouse is running.
Wow.
And then they can use their inherent distance finder, and they dive at over 100 miles an hour, and they go down and they hit it. And when you're watching them, like I would just sit there. If boxes had birds, I'd sit and watch for close to 2 hours sometimes, because that was my job, to document and take pictures. But these things, if they go down and they don't come back up, it means it found something. If it goes down and comes right back up, it missed.
Wow,
Interesting.
that's crazy to watch and see and experience. I mean, I kind of know what you're talking about. This last weekend I was in Yellowstone and I was watching a fox for about an hour hunting voles and mice in the field, so definitely I see where the interest comes in and watching these birds and hawks and whatnot. The falcons do what they do best at. And, I mean, are these the same falcons or a little bit different than what you see some hunters, they'll use a falcon to hunt.
They can use American Kestrels. American Kestrels are mostly for really advanced people, because American Kestrels are so small and they have really high metabolism. It's really hard to keep them alive, and you have to like work them a lot, and they don't live that long in captivity, up to like 7 years maybe. But the bigger falcons, like a peregrine falcon versus the kestrel, they have those more often. And then you got red-tailed hawks, roughneck hawks, all these other hawks, but they do have kestrels sometimes. Now, in the United States, there are a few states that allow you to get a permit and capture kestrels and have them as a hawking or falconry, but not Delaware, because Delaware is a state endangered species. And in their zoo, they're injured kestrels. They have 2 of them. They're actually not even from Delaware. One came from Georgia. She broke her wing and can't fly anymore. And her name's Lady May, which is funny because my last name's May. Yeah, but they would bring her out while I was talking about the kestrels and stuff, and she's really cool, and like they just hold it out and let people look at her, and she does the exact same thing a wild kestrel does, where she bobs her inherent distance finder to figure out how far something is. She'll just sit there and bob her head, and it's a teaching moment right there with all the kids or Boy Scouts or whoever's visiting the zoo, because I did spend a few days in the zoo giving talks.
So when they're bobbing their head like that, is it kind of assessing like the different ranges in an area where it's like, okay, that person's 5 feet, this person's 10 feet behind them? Or I guess what's going on when it's bobbing its head like that? Like,
so it depends on the species. So owls can do it also. Their eyes basically are able to differentiate how far something is because they're using the binocular vision. They're determining how far it is from this eye and how far it is from this eye, and using a triangle in their head. So they're just determining how far it is. A lot of times when they're bobbing their head, most other species are just trying to get a better view of something. Lizards do it too. They're looking, basically adjusting their head so their eyes can see from different angles.
okay.
It's more these owls and falcons, and a couple types of hawks that bob their head more for this distance finding, but a lot of birds bob their head to just get a better look at things.
Interesting. Cool. That's good to know. The other question I had is, so I saw that not only did you send and share these pictures of the falcon, but you shared the pictures of the turtles.
So that was in North Carolina.
Okay, so that was different. It wasn't with the Brandywine Zoo.
Right. So that was when I worked for state parks at Haw River in North Carolina. For 2 years, I worked there, and I got into that more as an environmental educator. I like to talk. When I was out in Montana, I was an environmental educator. We marched people up the pillar and talked about all different things, from wildlife to history to things like that. So when I left Brandywine, I decided I wanted to do more in-person talking, educating. I love the animal side, so I went to a place where they do still study stuff. And so they have a 100 years box turtle project here in North Carolina, where they're trying to take pictures of, log, measure all these different box turtles. And an estimation is that some box turtles might actually live to be 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we take these turtles, and you see the lady with the glove and the calipers and stuff there. They're measuring them. That you can tell if they're male and female based on the scutes, which are these little basically scale looking things on the turtle shell, and on the color. So this is a female here. She's not very bright and stuff, but there are some that are super bright. They're more orange colored in the head or yellow. And we would put this little, it's a tracker, a GPS or a radio telemetry tracker. So we could use a radio telemetry device and walk around and figure out where the turtle is. So we do that every 2 weeks. We'd just pinpoint, figure out where it's at, and they would keep data on that. So we also, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What's the range? You say you track them. What's the range of distance like these turtles are going? Like,
So sometimes it amazes you how far they go. Like sometimes they're going over a mile in a week, up big hills, down ravines, different things like that. Especially the females will go in big circles, trying to find multiple males. The males will kind of keep to their area a lot of times, but the females, we had one that went. I don't remember, but it was close to 500 square acres in
Ooh.
7 weeks or something like that, 6 weeks. She went really far, just wandering all over because these turtles in their breeding, they can actually take multiple sperm from multiple males, and then their egg clutch will be mixed fathers.
so like cats in that sense. That
Yeah,
okay,
like
cool.
cats. And we did things with the kids that came to teach them about the turtles, where we would have one that we already found, because every time we'd find a turtle, we'd log where it was, we'd measure it, stuff like that, and then put it back in the same place. But when we had like a big group of students coming, say from like Raleigh or Charleston, especially like if they're inner city kids that had never really held a turtle before or seen box turtles. I mean, some kids like live out in the woods, they've seen box turtles all the time. Other kids have never ever seen it. So we bring it out, we teach them what we do, and we tell them about it. And sometimes we let them go release it, and it's just this huge thing. Even though like I could do it every single day, like see this turtle, and it was kind of a regular thing to me. Being able to teach that to people and teach the appreciation of like we're using this animal for science, but we're also helping it because it lives in this big area and we're not cutting down the trees and things, and just kind of putting hands-on science to kids that might not equate science in the classroom to, you know, a turtle in the woods doing its own thing.
Well,
I love that.
To me, I'm thinking back to the birds, and the way you described the triangle and the distances. And I remember the class where they brought the construction people out to teach us that. It's like, man, I would have learned better if it was a bird.
Yep.
You're telling me he's taking this eye and taking that eye. Like, oh,
Right.
Yeah, it's so
exactly. It doesn't matter on the age either. High schoolers too.
Right. Me, right? I'm 25, so learning daily.
For sure. Well, I got to be the guy. I always am. We're getting towards the end of the interview here. So just so you know, we have a segment at the end of our podcast. We do our final words. It could be literally anything you want. You can plug anything, PSA about anything. You can send out a good vibes to people, literally anything you want in this time. You have as much time as you want with it as well. Since you are our guest, Matt, we would love for you to go first. Final words, anything you'd like.
Awesome. Well, I'd just like to give a shout out to everybody out there who's trying to do the right thing. You know, when we were talking about picking up trash or just being sustainable environmentalists, trying to help the world. Just shout out to you. There are other people out here trying to do it. Like we're all in this together. And also just telling people to do what makes you happy. That's a huge thing in my life. Like, yeah, I might not have the most money. I might not have the nicest car, but I want to do what makes me happy and what helps make other people happy. It's kind of just a do good things, and hopefully good things come back onto you. So let's just be good people.
I love it. Zach, final words, my guy.
I'm going to stick along the sustainability route. I myself have bought metal straws, accidentally threw away the first one. Learned that one the hard way, so I apologize for that. But definitely I'm using them daily, and I've even noticed the plastic consumption that I've reduced. Not taking a straw here, not taking a straw there, trying to do this, use reusable water bottles, use reusable bags. I know it's a hassle, but especially living in Montana, you get the weird looks when I walk into Walmart with my reusable bags, but at the same time too, what do you do with the plastic bags other than throw them away, right? Like, I think that's the other thing people don't realize is you're just throwing it away. You're using it to take the groceries from the store to your house. Why not use that same bag to take the groceries, but also take your mail to the post office and then use it for something else later on? So be sustainable, reuse things when you can, reuse boxes when you ship an item. I don't know, do it all.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I love it. Reverend's final words of wisdom. I just want to give a super thank you, Matt, for coming on and talking. It was a real pleasure talking to you today. This was honestly a blast, and going into the main words, stay beautiful. You guys are amazing. Woodsy the owl, give a hoot, don't pollute. It's we talked about it before on here. It's not big. The big things help, right? But it's a million small, tiny little things out there that are going to make the difference. So go out, try and do your best. Give a hoot, don't pollute. With that being said, peace out, everybody.